Have you ever listened to something and felt like it was listening back? Not watching you, not following you, but remembering you. Tonight's story is not a legend. It's not a myth, and it's definitely not a warning you'll understand in time. Because some broadcasts were never meant to be replayed. Welcome back to Echoes of the Forgotten. Tonight, we talk about a signal that never stopped transmitting. In 1997, an abandoned radio station on the outskirts of a forgotten town in West Virginia suddenly came back online. No announcement, no license renewal, no staff, just a signal. At exactly 2:17 a.m. every night, the same frequency activated, and anyone who listened never heard silence again. The station was called WQF-117. It officially shut down in 1983 after a mysterious fire destroyed most of its equipment. No bodies were found, but strangely, no former employees were ever located again. 14 years later, a college student named Ethan Miller, obsessed with lost media, stumbled upon the frequency while scanning shortwave channels. At first, it sounded like static. Then, breathing. Not heavy, not panicked. Slow, patient, as if something was waiting for him to notice. On the third night, the static cleared. A voice came through, not distorted, not old, clear. It said, "You're listening again." Ethan froze. He had never spoken, never introduced himself. The voice continued, "You missed us." Then another voice joined in, and another. Men, women, children, all whispering different things, but somehow responding to his thoughts. When he thought about turning the radio off, the voices screamed. Ethan drove to the station. What he found was worse than decay. The equipment was warm, dustless, active. Reels of tape labeled with dates, many of them in the future. One tape was labeled with his name. When he played it, he heard himself breathing, standing exactly where he was now. Then his own voice whispered, "I stayed too long." Behind him, a red on-air light flickered to life. Ethan tried to leave. The doors wouldn't open. The radio began broadcasting live, not to the town, to every radio, phone, and speaker nearby. People reported hearing their own voices calling them by name, begging them to tune in. One by one, listeners disappeared. Their last known sound, static, followed by breathing. At 2:17 a.m., the broadcast changed. Only one voice remained, Ethan's, crying, laughing, repeating the same sentence, "If you can hear this, you're already part of it." The station burned down again that night. This time, no equipment was found. But the frequency? It's still there. So tonight, if you hear a faint hiss in your headphones, if your radio turns on by itself, if a voice whispers your name from a place that shouldn't exist anymore, don't respond. Because some echoes don't fade. They wait. And once you listen long enough, they remember you. Good night. And welcome to Echoes of the Forgotten. In 2009, a box was discovered in the basement of an abandoned public library. No labels, no inventory record, no explanation for how it got there. Inside the box were cassette tapes, each one marked with a date, each date corresponding to the day before someone disappeared. The final tape had no date, only 3 words written in red ink: "Do not listen." The box was found by Daniel Harper, a graduate student researching lost audio archives. At first, he thought it was a hoax, but when he cross-referenced the dates on the tapes with missing persons reports, his hands started to shake. Every tape matched a real disappearance. Different ages, different professions, different cities. One thing in common: every person had last been seen alone. Daniel took the tapes home. He told himself he would only catalog them. He promised himself he wouldn't listen. He lied. The first tape began with silence, then room tone, a clock ticking, breathing, and a calm male voice saying, "If you're hearing this, I didn't leave." The voice belonged to a man named Robert Klein, missing since 1987. Robert spoke casually. He described his day, his dinner, the weather. Then his tone changed. "Someone is standing behind me. I don't hear footsteps anymore. I hear remembering." The tape ended with a sound Daniel couldn't explain. Not screaming, not crying, something being accepted. Daniel listened to more tapes. Each one followed the same structure: normal conversation, small details, then awareness. Every person realized they were no longer alone, but none of them described what was with them. Instead, they all said the same sentence in different voices: "It knows me." Daniel stopped sleeping. He started hearing faint static in quiet rooms. His phone would record audio by itself, just empty rooms and breathing that wasn't his. The final tape played by itself one night. Daniel hadn't touched it. The voice on this tape was different. It was calm, close, familiar. It said his name, not spoken, recognized. "Daniel, you've been listening for a long time." The voice explained that the recordings weren't messages, they were introductions. Every time someone listened, something learned them, their habits, their thoughts, their fears, and once learned, they were never alone again. Daniel tried to destroy the tapes. They reappeared. He tried to record himself. The playback wasn't his voice. The library burned down 6 weeks later. No remains were found, but a new tape appeared in the archives of a different city. No label, just a note, archived by D. Harper. The recording begins with silence, then breathing. Then Daniel's voice says, "If you're hearing this, please don't try to understand it. Understanding is how it stays." A pause. Then something whispers over him. Not louder, closer. In 1981, a government-funded research facility in northern Canada was shut down overnight. No press conference, no explanation, no evacuation notice. The workers simply stopped coming back. What remained was a concrete structure buried beneath ice and forest, and a single room that no one could explain. a room where clocks stopped ticking, but people did not. The facility was part of an unofficial experiment known internally as Project Stillness. The goal was simple: to study what happens when human consciousness is removed from time. Not frozen, not asleep, just disconnected. Scientists believed that if the mind could exist without time moving forward, they could unlock perfect memory, end fear of death, maybe even preserve consciousness forever. They built a room. No windows, no sound, no vibration, and inside it, time behaved differently. The first volunteer was Dr. Alan Reeves, one of the lead researchers. He entered the room for what was scheduled to be 5 minutes. Outside, 5 minutes passed. Inside, when they opened the door, Alan was still standing, eyes open, heart beating, breathing shallow, but he hadn't moved. When asked how long he thought he'd been inside, he answered, "I'm still in there." They laughed until he started crying. Over time, more subjects entered the room. Every single one reported the same thing. Inside the room, there was no sense of before or after, no thoughts forming, no memories fading, just awareness, endless awareness. One subject described it as being awake during eternity's pause. Another said, "I can feel myself remembering things that haven't happened." Some refused to leave, others begged never to go back in, and some never came out the same. The researchers noticed something disturbing. People who entered the room started behaving strangely outside of it. They would stop mid-sentence, stare at nothing, forget what movement felt like. They claimed the room followed them, not physically, but mentally. One technician was found standing in a hallway for 8 hours, unmoving. When shaken, he whispered, "I felt the room open again." That's when the clocks in the facility began to stop, all of them at the same time. The final experiment was unauthorized. 3 subjects were placed in the room together. Cameras recorded nothing unusual, but the audio captured something else. Breathing, not 3 sets, more. Whispers that didn't form words. After exactly 6 minutes, the door was opened. 2 subjects walked out. The third was gone. No blood, no exit, no explanation. The remaining 2 were asked what happened. They answered in unison. Time made room for something else. The facility was shut down that night. The room was sealed with concrete and steel. But years later, hikers reported something impossible. Deep in the forest, radios would cut out, phones would freeze, and people would experience moments where everything stopped. No wind, no sound, no movement, just awareness, and the overwhelming feeling that they were standing inside a room that had been waiting. So one day you find yourself frozen in place. If the world feels paused just a second too long, if your thoughts stop moving but you remain awake, don't panic. You might not be dying. You might just be standing exactly where time once stopped and never fully started again. Sleep well, and remember, some places don't trap your body, they trap your moment. This was Echoes of the Forgotten. In 2014, satellite images revealed something strange in a remote area of the Midwest. A town with no registered residents, yet lights were turning on at night. Cars appeared in driveways. Shadows moved behind windows. But every census record said the same thing. Population, 0. The town was named Gray Ridge. It was officially abandoned in 1992 after a factory collapse contaminated the water supply. Everyone left within weeks. Everyone except what the records couldn't explain. The last government inspector, Laura Bennett, reported something unsettling. Her notes mentioned clean streets, fresh food in stores, and radios playing local news broadcasts, recorded decades ago. Her final report ended mid-sentence. Laura was never seen again. Urban explorers later entered Grey Ridge. They filmed playgrounds with warm swings, coffee cups still steaming, televisions murmuring quietly to empty rooms. But the most disturbing detail? Every clock in town showed the same time, 6:42 p.m., always. Explorers reported hearing footsteps behind them only when they stopped walking, and whispers that didn't echo because they weren't coming from walls. They were coming from memory. Visitors began describing encounters. A man waving from a porch, a child asking for directions, a cashier ringing up groceries. Perfectly normal until you looked away. When you turned back, they were gone. No sound, no movement, just the overwhelming sense that they had been waiting to be noticed. Some visitors left with extra photos on their cameras, photos of themselves standing with people they didn't remember meeting. A recovered audio log from the old factory revealed the truth. During the collapse, a chemical leak caused mass hallucinations, but something else happened too. People stopped leaving emotionally. Their routines continued, their habits repeated. Over time, the town didn't lose its residents. It kept their impressions, memories without bodies, voices without lungs. Grey Ridge didn't become abandoned, it became occupied by echoes. Visitors reported a strange urge to stay, to sit down, to rest, to finish what they were doing. Phones lost signal, cars wouldn't start, and those who stayed too long stopped being seen leaving. New shadows appeared in windows, new voices joined the recordings. The town wasn't trapping people, it was remembering them. The last known footage from Grey Ridge shows a street at sunset. Lights flick on, one by one, laughter echoes, and a sign at the town entrance reads, "Welcome home," painted recently. So if you ever pass through a place that feels familiar, if strangers greet you like they've known you forever, if leaving feels harder than staying, ask yourself one thing. Is the town alive, or is it just remembering you so it doesn't have to be alone anymore? Sleep well, and remember, some places don't need people to exist. They just need someone to notice them. This was Echoes of the Forgotten.